record. I'm Michaela Maddox,
I am Presley Turney, and this is Anatomy and Physiology 1, 2401-102.
and this is our extra credit presentation over the major muscles in the body.
Okay, so let's begin with the muscle of mastication. First, we have the temporalis. The temporalis closes the jaw and elevates and retracts the mandible. Following that is the masseter, which closes the jaw and elevates the mandible. It originates in the zygomatic arch and the zygomatic bone. The insertion is angle and ramus of the mandible. Next, we have the quadriceps. The quadriceps femoris muscle is a large muscle group that includes the four prevailing muscles on the front of the thigh, which is also in the picture included. It is the sole extensor muscle of the knee, forming a large fleshy mass which covers the front and side of the femur. The quadriceps are responsible for extending the leg and flexing the thigh, which would help with movements such as jumping or even walking. Onto the deltoid muscle. The deltoid muscle functions include arm abduction, which basically means raising your arm out to the side of your body. The deltoid muscle also helps stabilize and moves the shoulder joints. Onto the diaphragm. One of the main muscles of respiration is the diaphragm. The diaphragm contracts rhythmically and continually, most of the time involuntary. The diaphragm causes inhalation by enlarging the volume of the thoracic cavity. Onto the external and internal intercostals. Another muscle of respiration is the external and internal intercostal muscles. The external intercostal muscles causes forceful inhalation, but the internal intercostal muscles causes forceful exhalation. The bicep muscle. The main function of the biceps are the flexion and supination of the forearm, which basically means an outward rotation. The bicep is one of the three muscles that flex the elbow and also one of the three that flex the shoulder. Flexes forearm at the elbow joint, forearm at radial ulnar joints, and arm at shoulder joint. Continuing with the bicep brachii. The bicep and bicep brachii is a large muscle that lies on the front of the upper arm between the shoulder and the elbow joint. Both heads of the muscle arise on the scapula and join to form a single muscle belly, which is attached to the upper forearm. Next, we have the latissimus dorsi muscle. The latissimus dorsi muscle is a large but flat muscle, and it is located on the back that stretches to the side behind the arm, and is partly covered by the trapezius on the back near the midline. The action of the muscle is to be able to pull the inferior angle of the scapula in a variety of directions, which producing movements on the shoulder joint, internal rotation, adduction of the arm, and extension of the arm. Onto the gluteus maximus. The gluteus maximus muscle exhibits four actions of the hip joint: extension, external rotation, abduction, and adduction of the hip. Gluteus maximus acts as the main extensor of the hip joint, pulling the shaft of the femur posteriorly.
Next, we have the trapezius muscle. The trapezius elevates, depresses, and retracts the scapula. The descending muscle fibers of the trapezius muscle internally rotate the arms. The trapezius moves the scapulae and supports the arm. Next, we have the pectoralis major, and the pectoralis major is a thick, fan-shaped or triangular convergent muscle of the human chest. It makes up the bulk of the chest muscles, and it lies underneath the breast. Beneath the pectoralis major is the pectoralis minor. and the pectoralis major pulls the arm forward and across the chest, adducts and medially rotates the humerus bone. Now we have the soleus, and it is a powerful muscle located in the lower back of the leg. It runs just below the knee to the heel. The soleus is very important for walking, dancing, and running. It is considered a very powerful muscle along with the calf muscle because it pulls against the force of gravity in order to keep the body upright. Now we have the abdominal muscles, and that includes the rectus abdominis, the transverse abdominis, the internal oblique, the external oblique, and an aponeurosis. So the abdominal muscles support the trunk, allowing movement and hold organs in place by regulating internal abdominal pressure. The abdomen ultimately serves as a cavity to house vital organs of the digestive, urinary, endocrine, exocrine, circulatory, and parts of the reproductive system. And a fun fact is the interior wall of the abdomen has 9 layers. So continuing on with abdominal muscles, we have external and internal obliques, and they, since the abdominal wall, compress the abdominal contents. And then we have the rectus abdominis, which flexes and rotates the vertebral column, compresses the abdominal contents, and also flexes the torso at the waist, as in sit-ups. Then we have the transverse abdominis, which tenses the abdominal wall and compresses the abdominal contents. So now moving on to muscles of facial expression. So first we have the buccinator, which is a muscle that compresses the cheeks. The buccinator originates in the molar region of the maxilla and mandible, and it is inserted at the orbicularis oris. Now moving on to the epicranius frontalis, it includes the frontal belly and the occipital belly, which is connected by an epicranial aponeurosis. The epicranius frontalis raises the eyebrows and wrinkles the forehead. It originates from the epicranial aponeurosis, and it inserts at the skin of the eyebrows and root of nose. So now moving on, we have the orbicularis oculi, which closes the eye tightly as in squinting. Then we have the orbicularis oris, which closes and protrudes the mouth, which or like puckers your lips, and it is one of the sphincter muscles that is on the face. So then we have the zygomaticus major and minor, and they raise the corner of the mouth as in smiling. They originate in the zygomatic bone, and they both insert in the skin and muscle of the upper lip. And that is the end of our presentation.